In international trade, different kinds of letter of credit are used to meet various requirements of trading and payment. According to different criteria and use purposes, letters of credit may be mainly classified into the following types. Based on whether the draft under the credit are accompanied by shipping documents, there are documentary LC and clear LC. Documentary LC is a standard letter of credit that's commonly used in international trade and may also be referred to as a commercial letter of credit. It specifies the various documents which are required to be produced by the exporter to the importer. Normally, the documents specified in the documentary credit are commercial invoice, bill of lading, insurance policy, certificate of origin, certificate of inspection, packing list, etc. A clean LC allows an applicant to issue draft which must be paid on demand by the bank. Without additional required documentation, the approval of a clean credit from the issuing bank is harder than a normal commercial credit. The issuing bank may be at risk of default from the applicant, and the chances of non-performance from the beneficiary are riskier too. According to the standard of responsibility of issuing bank, it can be divided into revocable LC and irrevocable LC. The revocable letter of credit can be withdrawn by the opener or opening bank at any time. Withdrawal can be effective without notice to the exporter. Revocable letter of credit, therefore, does not sufficiently protect the interest of the exporter in getting his payment. Due to the limited use of revocable documentary credits today, they have been removed from UCP 600. Irrevocable LC is more commonly used. It cannot be revoked or modified without the consent of the issuing bank, the beneficiary, and the confirming bank. It is a safer option for the seller or exporter as it ensures that the amount mentioned in the LC will be paid if the submitted papers fulfill the terms and conditions of the agreement. Irrevocable LC further has two types: confirmed and unconfirmed LC, based on whether or not another bank or financial institution adds its guarantee to the LC. Sight LC and usance LC are the types in terms of different payment time, from which the usance credit payable at sight is derived. Payment under a sight credit occurs as soon as the beneficiary submits acceptable documents to the appropriate bank. The bank has several days to review the documents and ensure that they meet the requirements in the letter of credit. If the documents are in good order, the bank must pay immediately. Usance LC or deferred payment LC is where the draft is drawn on the issuing or corresponding bank at the end of the agreed usance period. The bank may receive the documents early upon completion of shipment of goods, but the payment is processed only after the usance period is over. This gives a grace period to the buyer who can make the payment after a certain period of time from when he receives the goods. Usance credit payable at sight refers to a credit arrangement where the issuing bank grants financing for the importer. The importer makes forward payment, whereas the exporter makes a sight collection from the drawee bank that is responsible for discounting. Generally, the importer affords the discounting expenses and interest for overdue payment. It is regarded as a usance LC that is payable at a sight basis. Thus, it's actually the combination of usance credit and sight credit. According to the transferability of a beneficiary's rights to the letter of credit, it can be divided into transferable LC and non-transferable LC. A transferable letter of credit is one which specifically states that it is transferable. This will only occur if the applicant agrees. In a transferable credit, the rights and obligations of the beneficiary are transferred to another party, usually a manufacturer or wholesaler. Transfer of a credit is allowed only once. It may be either full or partial. A non-transferable LC cannot be transferred in favor of any person. Only the beneficiary who is named in the letter alone can get the payment. The last group, revolving LC, reciprocal LC, back-to-back LC, anticipatory credit, and standby credit, are the types classified according to the using purpose. Revolving letter of credit is used when the export transaction between the same parties is regular and continuous. Credit can be availed against the one and the same letter of credit for all subsequent export transactions. It can be resorted to its full amount after the completion of each documentary exchange as stipulated. It avoids the need for repetitive arrangement to open a new letter of credit for every transaction, saving a lot of time and energy of all of three parties, that is, bank, importer, as well as exporter. When the two parties conclude a transaction in which they act as importers and exporters mutually, and the traders are related and equal or almost equal, the two parties open letters of credit in favor of each other, so the two LC are conditioned on each other. This type of LC is often used in barter trade, compensation trade, processing trade, etc. A back-to-back letter of credit allows intermediaries to connect buyers and sellers. This somewhat complicated strategy uses two letters of credit so that each party gets paid individually. An intermediary gets paid by the buyer and a supplier gets paid by the intermediary. The final buyer and the intermediary might use a master letter of credit, and the intermediary and the supplier use a letter of credit based on the master letter. Anticipatory credit is also called the Red Clause LC. The beneficiary is partly paid or is paid in advance before the goods are shipped, and after receipt of documents and a written confirmation from the seller to the bank. This type of LC acts as an aid to the seller for his working capital requirements for purchase of raw materials, packaging, and processing of goods. The red clause is so termed because it is usually printed in red on the documentary to draw attention to an advance payment term of the credit. Instead of enabling a transaction, a standby letter of credit provides compensation when something goes wrong. Standby credit is closer to the bank guarantee. Bank will honor the LC only when the beneficiary can prove that he didn't get what was promised in an agreement. Standby credit is a form of insurance that ensures payment, and it can also guarantee that service will be performed satisfactorily. A letter of credit is an important financial document in international trade transactions, as well as in domestic market, especially for large international shipments of goods where customs, duties, tariffs, and clearing are required. A letter of credit is among the safest way for buyers and sellers to trade in physical goods, despite having higher fees and being very paperwork intensive. However, remittance, collection, and the letter of credit, Each international payment method has its pros and cons, and no method is 100% safe from fraudsters. No matter which method you choose, you must do your due diligence. That's all for the letter of credit, and so much for the payment method. We will move to another chapter next time. See ya.